helping you.
You trust me? You know damn well the right thing to do is to tell me.
Yes, and I am so sorry.
So shut up and let me slap you.
On April 3rd, 2022, a 26-year-old Miami woman thought she was just living another day in her carefully planned world of wealth and social media fame. She planned a quiet day with her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, who had been in that world. Within hours, everything would collapse. A normal morning became a terrible tragedy. The woman who claimed domestic abuse was at the center, and Christian was dead. The case is not just tragic for how it unfolded, but for who the woman was, a popular influencer. A young woman who seemed untouchable in her world of Instagram fame. Yet, behind the beauty and the fame, a much darker reality was lurking. The perception of a victim. Courtney Taylor Clinny sits in a Miami courtroom, her hands nervously clasped in front of her as she waits for her fate to be decided. A social media model, an influencer, and an OnlyFans creator, Courtney had once lived the glamorous life of luxury. Luxury that had been funded by millions of followers who admired her beauty. But now, she is just another accused, sitting in a courtroom, her reputation hanging by a thread as her defense team presents her as a woman trapped in a dangerous relationship. She sits, believing her victim narrative would be enough to get her out on bond. Courtney's lawyers argue she acted in self-defense, that she was the one who had been under attack. They claim Christian Obumseli, her boyfriend of almost 2 years, was the aggressor, and she was simply defending herself from an abusive partner. It's a narrative that seems plausible at first glance, one that matches what many have come to expect in domestic violence cases. An innocent woman fighting back against a violent man. Courtney's story seemed perfect for the media. A beautiful woman who had built an empire online, now facing the aftermath of a tragic encounter with an abusive boyfriend. People felt bad for her, and for a while it looked like she might get away with it. But that would soon change. What Courtney didn't know was that investigators were already working hard behind the scenes to gather evidence that would soon break her carefully crafted story. The 911 call, a tragic act of self-defense. On the night of Christian Obumseli's death, Courtney called 911 in a panic. Her voice was filled with fear, and she claimed that Christian was dying. "I can't see my arm. I can't feel my arm," she told the operator.
I can't feel my arm. 3101. I can't feel my arm.
She went on to say that her boyfriend was bleeding out and she was terrified. "My boyfriend is dying," she repeated, each word heavier than the last. It sounded like the call of a woman in distress, someone who had been caught in a dangerous situation. Courtney apologized profusely, calling out to Christian in a way that seemed genuine. "I'm so sorry, baby."
Ma'am,
my boyfriend is dying of a stab.
Ma'am, what is the address?
Baby, I'm so sorry. Baby.
Her emotions seemed real, her panic palpable. This, along with the fact that she was covered in blood, set the stage for what would later become the basis of her defense. In her mind, the 911 call was her golden ticket, proof that she was the victim, simply acting in self-defense against an abusive partner. The media, quick to latch on to the dramatic nature of the situation, echoed her claims. They painted her as a tragic figure, a woman who had been forced to defend herself from a man who had crossed the line. The narrative was easy to digest. Beautiful young woman, trapped in a toxic relationship, fighting for her life. The public bought into the story. Headlines followed. Instagram model kills, boyfriend in self-defense. Her lawyers and supporters seized on this narrative, pushing for her release and awaiting a trial that seemed almost certain to be in her favor. But something didn't feel right. Even though the 911 call was emotional, there were parts of her story that didn't add up. The timeline of events was troubling. Why did Courtney wait more than 14 minutes to call for help after the fight was supposed to be over? During that time, she made a call to her mother, not 911. Was this a moment of calculated manipulation? Or was there something more to the story that she hadn't shared? The shocking discovery. Courtney had no idea that the investigation into Christian's death had already started to uncover the truth. Rather than relying only on her testimony, the investigators had access to tangible evidence, security footage, and Christian's own secret recordings.
Let me help you.
You know damn well the right thing to do is to tell me.
Yes, and I am so sorry.
So shut up and let me slap you.
As it happened, Courtney's claims would be completely disproved by the video evidence. The luxury apartment complex in Miami where Courtney and Christian resided had security cameras installed throughout the building. And one particular piece of footage, taken from an elevator, would be crucial in exposing the truth. In contrast to Courtney's claim that he was the aggressor, the video showed a composed Christian trying to defend himself, while Courtney lashed out in rage. Forensic evidence from the crime scene also painted an even darker picture. Christian was fatally stabbed in the chest, with a forceful downward thrust of the knife. This type of injury could not have been inflicted from across the room, as Courtney had claimed. The medical examiner's report confirmed that the wound was consistent with a close-range attack, rather than an accidental throw. This alone would have been enough to cast serious doubt on Courtney's story. Red flags were raised by more than just the autopsy, though. Blood spatter analysis further disproved Courtney's claim of self-defense by showing that Christian was most likely on the ground when the knife entered his chest. The revelation was made even more damning by the fact that the knife was not thrown. It was not the act of a desperate woman trying to survive. Rather, the fact that it was found in the apartment indicates that it had been used nearby. It was the act of someone who valued violence over restraint. As the evidence mounted, Courtney's story began to crumble. The 911 call, which had initially appeared to be her saving grace, now served to strengthen the evidence against her. Her story was no longer credible. Investigators had enough to charge her with second-degree murder. The chilling truth was clear. Courtney Clenny wasn't a victim of an abusive partner. She was a woman who had used her beauty, her wealth, and her public persona to manipulate the world around her. A toxic relationship. Unseen signs of abuse. Courtney Taylor Clenny and Christian Obumseli's relationship was marked by severe emotional instability long before the deadly stabbing in 2022. The couple's involvement in a destructive cycle of physical and emotional abuse was immediately apparent. The media initially tried to portray Courtney as a young woman trapped in an abusive relationship, supporting her victimization narrative. But the truth was much darker. The couple had been involved in multiple violent altercations, one of which took place in Las Vegas in 2021. During a supposed romantic trip to Las Vegas, their relationship descended into violence. The argument turned violent, with Courtney hurling a glass at Christian, according to security footage and police body cam recordings. This was not an isolated incident, even though charges were dropped. For a while, the violence between them had been getting worse. Despite their inability to identify the aggressor, neighbors claimed to have heard continuous shouting, banging, and glass breaking. However, Christian never called the police, despite being abused repeatedly, possibly out of concern for the repercussions given their racial dynamics. As a black man and a white woman, his silence was probably influenced by this dynamic. The couple persisted in staying together in spite of the Las Vegas incident and multiple other altercations, perpetuating the poisonous cycle. The media's acceptance of Courtney's victim status and Christian's failure to report the abuse allowed the violence to continue unchecked, intensifying until the terrible incident in Miami. The storyline appeared to be clear at the time of the 911 call. Courtney had been a victim who had to struggle for her life. But as soon as investigators started assembling the whole picture, this story would fall apart. The Las Vegas incident, a foreshadowing of what was to come. The trip to Las Vegas was not only a physical altercation, but also a prelude to the impending deadly confrontation. In August 2021, while staying at a casino hotel, Courtney and Christian got into a heated argument that escalated into violence. In the body camera footage of police responding to a disturbance, Courtney was arrested for domestic abuse, while Christian was clearly injured. This incident was vital to understanding the dynamics of their relationship, even though it didn't seem as serious as what would happen next. Though the reality was very different, Christian downplayed the damage and claimed that there was no real danger. Courtney acted in an aggressive and uncontrollable manner. Christian did not consider the physical violence that had resulted from the argument to be dangerous enough to call the police, but the fact was that this was a pattern of increasing abuse. The power dynamics between the two were exposed by this incident. Christian was hesitant to file charges or escalate the matter, probably to avoid humiliation or more strife. Christian would continue to take the brunt of the violence, and Courtney would keep putting herself in the position of needing protection. Courtney denied that her actions were a miscommunication when the police arrived in Las Vegas. Nonetheless, the video from the event would provide a clear sneak peek at the violent tendencies she would later exhibit in Miami. Miami, the escalation and fatal confrontation. Courtney and Christian relocated to Miami in January 2022, where they settled into an opulent apartment at One Paraiso, a posh high-rise with ample amenities and breathtaking views. However, the move to Miami only seemed to increase the violence in their relationship rather than provide a new beginning. Their underlying problems continued and the fights increased in frequency. Several incidents were reported in the first few months after they moved, revealing what had previously been discussed behind closed doors to building security and neighbors. In February 2022, Christian was physically attacked by Courtney in the building's elevator, and while he tried to defuse the situation, he was hit repeatedly. This disturbing video was captured by security cameras and would later be used as a key piece of evidence in Courtney's case. It was evident in the video that Christian was attempting to defuse the situation and stop further violence by abstaining from retaliation. The fact that Christian had not been the aggressor as Courtney had claimed provided crucial insight into the dynamics of their relationship. Courtney didn't stop there, though. Several reports of Courtney's drug and alcohol use in the months prior to the deadly altercation seemed to exacerbate her unpredictable behavior. As this was happening, Christian started recording their altercations, obtaining unsettling footage of Courtney using threats and racial epithets. These recordings, which were found on Christian's phone after his death, were yet another piece of evidence that implicated him. The video evidence, a turning point in the case. The building security cameras provided the most important piece of evidence that would alter the trial's outcome. The video showed Courtney and Christian getting into a heated argument, giving viewers an honest glimpse of the events leading up to Christian's demise. In the video, which was captured by an elevator camera, Courtney was seen physically assaulting Christian as he attempted to defend himself and soothe her. The video made it clear right away that Christian did not defend himself. Instead, despite Courtney hitting him repeatedly, he appeared to be making every effort to defuse the situation. Courtney had made the exact opposite claim in her defense. The video evidence disproved her claim that she was acting in self-defense. It depicted an aggressive rather than defensive woman who had taken charge of the situation. Furthermore, the security footage showed that even as the violence increased, Christian made no effort to retaliate and instead attempted to avoid the altercation. It was evident from the elevator moment who was the aggressor in their relationship. Christian had never retaliated against her violence, so his failure to defend himself was in line with his actions during their turbulent relationship. The video was also corroborated by the physical evidence. Christian was stabbed from a downward angle, indicating close contact and proving that Courtney initiated the deadly altercation. The case against Courtney, evidence unfolds. Courtney Taylor Cliney's self-defense defense, which she had so steadfastly relied upon, began to fall apart during the trial due to mounting evidence. She portrayed herself as a terrified victim and based her defense on the 911 call. However, the apartment complex's security footage presented an entirely different picture. In the video, Courtney and Christian were seen arguing angrily, while Christian tried to defuse the tense situation. Rather than being the aggressor, he appeared to be attempting to defuse Courtney's anger. This video disproved the claim of self-defense, demonstrating that Courtney initiated the violence. Forensic evidence at trial showed that Christian's fatal stab wound was not caused by a panicked knife throw. This undermined Courtney's defense. The knife's downward thrust disproved a desperate defensive throw by suggesting a close-range assault. Christian's chest was stabbed deeply, and the angle of the wound suggested an intentional attack. Along with the physical evidence, investigators also found audio recordings from Christian's phone that revealed a troubling pattern of domineering behavior, including threats and racial epithets from Courtney. These recordings portrayed their relationship as being far more emotionally domineering, verbally abusive, and manipulative. Instead of being a helpless victim in their tumultuous relationship, Courtney was shown to be the aggressor. The verdict and its consequences. After days of deliberation, the jury convicted Courtney Taylor Cliney of second-degree murder. The prosecution's strong evidence disproved her self-defense claims. The video footage of Christian trying to de-escalate the situation, the forensic evidence of a close-range stab wound, and Courtney's abusive behavior showed that she was not acting out of fear. Her actions were deliberate and intentional, the jury found. Christian's family received justice, but it was bittersweet. A former lover killed Christian Obumseli. Despite closure, the conviction did not bring him back. Despite knowing he could have been saved, his family had to cope with the emotional trauma of losing him so violently. He lost her victim image after her conviction. Courtney's carefully curated image of glamour, beauty, and success on Instagram and OnlyFans garnered a loyal following. Her social media empire collapsed after her crime was revealed. Former fans called her a manipulative killer who used beauty and fame to avoid responsibility. Beauty, social media fame, and fame cannot protect someone from their actions. Courtney received 25 years in prison. Though Christian's death was irreparable, his family was compensated. Don't idolize people because beauty and fame can hide darker truths, the case warned. The case showed women abuse and domestic violence has many forms. Courtney showed the world that beauty and popularity do not guarantee innocence, shattering the victimhood illusion.